This video will cover section 1.8 on absolute value equations. Now, when we're talking about absolute value equations, what makes them absolute value is that now our variable is in between the absolute value bars. And so what we need to do is find a way to remove those bars so that we can find what x equals. Get x out from between the bars and solve for it. Before we can do that, we really need to understand what absolute value is, its meaning. And so absolute value is simply the distance of a number from 0 on the number line. Since it is distance, alright, distance can never be negative. And since it is distance, therefore absolute value is not negative. Alright, so if I'm looking for, what this says right here is, what is the distance of 2 from 0? How far is 2 from 0? So if I go to 2 and I count back to 0, alright, I have gone a distance of 2. And then I want to look at how far is negative 2 from 0. Well, if I go to negative 2 and I count back to 0, I find that negative 2 is also a distance of 2 from 0. So if you're thinking about how many numbers are the same distance from 0, there are always 2 who have the same distance. So 7 and negative 7, if we looked at those. What is the absolute value of 7? 7. What is the absolute value of negative 7? Or what is its distance from 0 is also 7. And you could look at any variety of numbers, and you would find that there are always 2 that have the same distance. Alright, so we have to keep that in mind whenever we start to solve equations. So what this is telling me here is that the absolute value of something, or the distance of this expression right here, is a distance of 7 from 0. So what I need to find is, what number is a distance of 7 from 0? Well, we've already seen that 7 is a distance of 7, and negative 7 is a distance of 7. Okay, so there are 2 possibilities. Until I know more about what the problem is talking about, I need to find both of these because both of them lead me to the same distance. Alright, so what I'm going to try and find is what makes this be a 7 and what makes this be a negative 7, so that when I take the absolute value, I find a distance of 7. Alright, so we're going to take what's inside and we're going to find what makes it 7. And we're going to take what's inside and we're going to find what makes this expression be a negative 7. Alright, some things that I've seen in the past when people are doing absolute value is they want to change the sign of the inside. We're not changing signs here. Alright, there are 2 values, 7 and negative 7, that can fit inside this box. I need to find what x value makes inside here a 7 and what x value makes inside here a negative 7. Okay, so don't go changing signs of things that are inside. Alright, now to solve these 2 equations, on both of them, I'm going to subtract 9. So whatever way you use to solve the first equation, that is the way you would use to solve the second equation. Subtracting 9 on both, so that gets rid of that. Alright, and over here. Alright, now on both of them, I'm going to divide by negative 4. So on both sides of the equation, in both equations, I divide by negative 4. On the left one, when I simplify, I get 1/2. And on the right equation here, when I simplify, I get 4. Alright, now you should check your answers in the calculator. Your calculator will do absolute value. To get to absolute value, I'll show that here in a second, but first let's store our answer in x. I'm going to store 1/2 in x, and then I'm going to type in this right here, 9 minus 4x, the absolute value of that. To get to absolute value, I'm going to press this math button, and then I'm going to use these gray arrow keys and arrow over to where NUM is highlighted. The very first option, ABS, is absolute value. I'm going to choose that, and then I'm going to type in any expressions that have a variable in them, doing one side of the equation at a time. So the only thing I have is 9 minus 4x. I'm going to type that in. Alright, and if my answer of 1/2 is correct, I should get a value of 7. And I do. Alright, our other answer was 4. So let's store 4 in x. And then I want to enter it. The absolute value of 9 minus 4x. And that is 7. So I know both of my answers are good. Alright, on the second problem here, the absolute value of 3x plus 2 equals 5. So what this is telling me is that 3x plus 2, whatever its value is a distance of 5 from 0. Okay, well, what two numbers are a distance of 5 from 0? And we know that the absolute value of 5, or 5 is a distance of 5, and we know that negative 5 is a distance of 5. Alright, so what we need to do is find what value of x will make 3x plus 2 be a 5, and what value of x will make 3x plus 2 be a negative 5. Alright, so we're going to solve these equations twice. Alright, on both, I'm going to subtract 2. Alright, so I subtracted 2 on both sides for both equations. Then I'm going to divide both sides by 3 on both equations. When I simplify, I get x equals 1. And when I simplify, I get x equals negative 7/3. Alright, now I want to verify that my answers are correct. Alright, I'm looking to make sure that what I get inside here is a 5 and a negative 5. Okay, so I'm going to fill in. First I'm going to store 1 in x. Then I'm going to type in the absolute value of 3x plus 2. Alright, notice I get a 5. That's what it should be. And then the other answer was negative 7/3. I'm going to store that in x. Recall where I typed in the absolute value and hit enter. I also get 5. That's what I'm looking for, so I know both of my answers are good. Alright, now what I want to do is just ignore number 3, and I want to take a look at one other type of equation. Let's say we had the absolute value of 2x plus 1 plus 5 let's say equal to 8. Alright, now what this equation is saying is there is some number, a distance from 0, that whenever I add 5 to that distance, I get 8. Alright, and what we need to find is what is the distance, alright, that we're trying to find. So right now I have the distance plus 5 equals 8. Well, what is the distance I'm trying to find? That means I need to move the 5 over. Alright, and this tells me that I'm looking for the distance. I'm looking for what numbers that are a distance of 3. Now I know what I need to solve the inner part of my absolute value for. What numbers are a distance of 3 from 0? And those numbers are 3 and negative 3. And so I want to know what value of x will make this expression be a 3, and what value of x will make this expression be a negative 3. So let's solve. 2x plus 1 equals 3, and 2x plus 1 equals negative 3. Alright, on both I'm going to subtract 1. Alright, and then on both I'm going to divide by 2. I will find that x equals 1. Alright, and x equals negative 2. I want to check my answer back in the original equation. Alright, so I'm looking for the distance of something. Alright, plus 5 will give me 8. Alright, and we determined that a distance of 3 plus 5 equals 8. And that to get a distance of 3, alright, there were 2 possibilities, 3 and negative 3. And so we found what x values would give us 3 and negative 3 inside those absolute value bars. So if I'm going to check my answer, I want to store 1 in for x. And then I'm going to type in my equation just as it looks here. So I'm going to type in 2x plus 1. Alright, then I'm going to use my arrow key and get out of the absolute value bars. Then I'm going to add 5 to it. Alright, notice I get 8, which is what my equation says it equals. Alright, then I'm going to type in the other x value, which was negative 2. So let's store negative 2 for x. Recall our equation, which is absolute value of 2x plus 1 plus 5, and make sure that we also get an 8. And we do, so we know that our answer is good.